hold on. I got to get, composed. That taco, set me in a different dimension.
Did it really?
Bro, I was just like, oh, my God. I haven't had that in a minute.
Recon Podcast, Episode 6. Chris Sanchez, Paul Rodriguez, Zach Lucero, Snoop Daniel back over there on the couch. So I watched that up. Well, there you go, Snoop.
Yeah.
This is the Saturday morning weights, film, and mild edition, I'm going to call it.
Say that again?
Weights, film, and mild edition.
Okay.
Did y'all do that?
Like a black and mild? Is that what you said?
I mean, kind of. No, mild. Like run it mild, run it like run a mile.
Well, we were
Zach, I know you didn't play football, so you don't know anything about Saturday morning stuff. But
well, we were good in high school, so Saturdays, if we won, we just pretty much watched film and did a light workout. But
you don't have to run a mile?
No, because we were conditioned.
No, that's part of the getting the soreness out.
Stretching was what helped us get the conditioning.
That lactic acid.
So defense. Okay, so this is what we did at Westwood mid-90s, long time ago. You know, like I said,
bro,
when the dinosaurs were around watching us do this.
I was born in the mid-90s.
You were born in the mid-90s, Zach, while you were in the crib. So defense would be doing the weights. Offense would run the mile, and then we'd switch. Offense would go in, do the weights. Defense would run the mile. That would be to get out the soreness. And then when everybody was done, you shower up, you go and watch film.
We did it actually backwards. What we did is we went in and got treatment early, at 7:30, and then we all watched film at 8. And I mean, I had a tradition when I went. I always had me a chocolate yoo-hoo and powdered donuts. That's just the way I rolled back down D-line. But no, we did film first, and then offense went to go stretch, maybe run 200s, maybe 300s sprints.
Did a mile?
No, man. And then we just switched, and then you did a weight, and sometimes if we did really good, we didn't even do workout. We just watched film and dipped.
Oh. Zach, what'd you do on Saturdays in high school?
We had practice normally for baseball, so we did baseball stuff, and I was an outfielder, so it was normally just we'd have to base run for the infield to work on
shagging balls out in the outfield.
Yeah, the weekend practices were real chill. We didn't really care much. So,
so Zach would just kind of hang out on the outfield. Yeah. All right, weights, mile, film. Even though not everybody ran the mile, I'm kind of upset about that because
it's because you played when the ancestors were playing.
That's true. All right, week 2. Central Texas High School football. Let's go ahead and go down this scoreboard here real quick. Westlake 35, Cypress Ranch 7. Paul Rodriguez, what do you think about that?
I mean, talk about redemption. Westlake just picked up where they left off last year. I mean, minus their loss in the playoffs. But after they had their loss to Cy Ranch, they were just shutting people out until Lake Travis came, and they only allowed, I think, 14 in that game. Belton, they shellacked the week before in week 1, and this week they just said, Cy Ranch, look, it ain't happening again. We're going to go do it, embarrass you on your own turf.
Zach Lucero?
Westlake is the Central Texas team this year. Their defense is for real as per usual. And we have this quarterback whisperer coach who now has 17 quarterbacks at once.
Yeah, he's playing all 3 now.
So that's a great Todd Dodge problem to have. So.
And I say if I'm talking to Coach Dodge, I'm like, dude, pick one. And if I were picking one, I'd pick Klubnik, the sophomore. Anderson 14, Rouse 13. Anderson 2-0 now. Rouse 0-2. The Trojans starting off really, really well. Anybody got anything about that game?
Rouse had an injury last night, and then that makes it even worse because Rouse has not looked good so far this season. Yeah,
so Rouse is kind of struggling along right now, 0-2. Big game last night. The one a lot of people were talking about, Cedar Park, Cedar Ridge. Cedar Park 26, Cedar Ridge 14. Deuce Vaughn held to, I think it was 43 yards on the ground.
And that's
100 yards. 100 yards. He did have 100 yards receiving, but 43 yards on the ground. That's pretty impressive.
This is kind of what I expected from Cedar Park to bounce back after that loss to Vandergrift. But, I mean, Ryder Hernandez and co. came out and handled their business. Shout out to Ben Bell on that D-line to take care and reduce a Kansas State commit and Deuce Vaughn to, limited rushing yards in that game that we thought may be a shootout. But, 26 points for Cedar Park. And what was the final?
26-14.
Wow.
Zach Lucero.
Coach Sanders said after the Cedar Park game last week that D-line is going to end up being one of the best in the state, and to shut down a rushing team and a player like Deuce Vaughn. I mean, granted, he probably translates to a specialty type player at the next level, so it wouldn't surprise me if he's not able to to get things going on the ground against a good defense every game, but that's still an incredible feat for the Cedar Park defense.
Yeah, and for Cedar Ridge, they start against Vandergrift next week with district play. Zach, your expectations for next week on that game?
They definitely shifted. I mean, especially after kind of the lackluster performance that Vandergrift put up on Thursday against Killeen Ellison. Everyone was getting pretty nervous about this Cedar Ridge game, and especially we were ready for Cedar Ridge to put up big numbers against Cedar Park and play them the way that Vandergrift did last week. And when that was the complete opposite case, come final score yesterday, it's definitely a big sigh of relief everybody has for next weekend.
Yeah, so do you expect, I mean, you're sideline reporter for Vandergrift Vipers. I mean, you're not going to make a pick. We've already established that. I expect the Vandergrift Vipers to win this ball game next week. Paul, we'll talk about it a little bit on Wednesday, more in depth, but initial reaction to this game, Cedar Ridge and Vandergrift next week, Paul.
I think for Vandergrift ongoing, it's going to be low-scoring games. Defense is going to play well, play as a unit, and Drew Dawson's going to do enough just to get the W. And I think that's how it rolls through the whole season.
Yeah, and I thought with Vandergrift, Zach, with your interview with Coach Sanders after, I mean, they said that the defense hasn't given up a touchdown. Not even in scrimmage. In the scrimmage against Belton.
They scrimmage Belton in that scrimmage, and you know how the scrimmages go. You pretty much do whatever. You're putting sometimes even starting goal line situations for their defense, not to let anybody in the end zone all season long. I mean, that's crazy, especially the amount of people they lost last year. I mean, it's shout out the new Black Rain.
Does Vandergrift shut out Cedar Ridge?
That's what we were talking about before we started recording. Like how, I mean, the way that Cedar Park played against them, like that doesn't sound like an achievable task,
right?
Which would be crazy to think scrimmage, the Cedar Park game against a crazy athletic Killeen Ellison team, and then against, I mean, kind of a state power in Cedar Ridge and not giving up any points. I
mean, I don't expect a shutout.
Granted,
I do expect
no one
Vandergrift
has attempted a field goal against Vandergrift either. So I mean, I think everyone the way that Vandergrift scored last year, the people are thinking you got to put up more points, whereas a field goal to get rid of that goose egg wouldn't be the worst.
Yeah, but I wouldn't count that. I guess okay.
I'll say this:
touchdown, or I mean, do they give up a touchdown?
A shutout.
But do they give
up a field goal is not a shutout.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so do they give up a touchdown, Paul?
Yes, but not on defense. They give it up in special teams.
Oh,
that's where I think Vandergrift gives it up.
Okay. All right, so Vandergrift, Cedar Ridge to open up.
Where did that come from?
I know, right? He's just
special teams,
left field.
Coach Sanders and that Vandergrift staff is so crazy about special teams. Like when we had Alex Stadhouse, he would kick the ball into the goalpost every kickoff. Mm-hmm. And if you didn't sprint your hardest and party in the end zone, like they would say, like Coach Sanders would bench you if you started on defense. He wouldn't let you start that possession. Like they go so hard for special teams that I just couldn't even the sky would fall down on that sideline if they gave up something on special teams.
Well, just real quick, Chris, my biggest thing is because they're scoring limited numbers, like they only scored 4 touchdowns all season. On fourth down when they punt, depending on how that punt goes and the specialty players that Cedar Ridge has, that's where I'm finding possibly a touchdown off a punt. I don't expect one on the kickoff.
And then, I mean, their punter, I forget his name off the top of my head. He's got kind of a long last name, but he's like preseason all syntax. Like he's one of the best punters in the area. So I think, and Vandergrift kind of always like lucks into stuff like that too. So.
Jasinski.
Yeah, I mean he goes crazy. He goes crazy. Like they just always have someone.
Thanks, Snoop.
Always have some sort of specialist to kind of set them over the edge.
Canyon Lake 21, Weiss 20. The Weiss Wolves had their first ever win in program history last week, almost 2 in a row.
Dang, Snoop's breath is hot, man. Jesus.
Whoa!
Come on. Weiss Wolves, I wanted them to win. I thought they had a good chance of winning this game against Canyon Lake. Just 1 point loss for the Weiss Wolves. They're going to have another chance next week to try to get that second ever win. The game I attended last night, Westwood against Austin High. Everybody expected fireworks, and that's exactly what we got. Westwood 41, Austin High 39. I tell you what, RJ Martinez, Charles Wright, almost the same quarterback. If you were to just take away every physical attribute about them, They're almost exactly the same quarterback. I'm going to say Charles Wright's just a little bit more mobile than RJ. RJ can run, straight line. As far as like eluding people, he's not as good as Charles Wright, but these guys are both, I would say, some top quarterbacks in this area and possibly in the state. They're only juniors. So Westwood with the 41-39 win over Austin High. The only thing that Westwood and Austin High really need to work on, obviously defense. Defensively, they're just not getting to the quarterback. And there's plenty of time. They were running some really long routes last night. There were some, short routes, but then they would, try to go over the top. They weren't getting to the quarterback as often enough to really just disrupt the timing for Wright and Martinez, and also holding on to the football. There was at least, I think there was 3 consecutive possessions that ended up in a turnover. So both of these teams, maybe it was just the heat, the humidity, the ball was slippery. I don't know. But they could not hold on to that football in that game last night. But Westwood with the big win, 41-39 over Austin High. McCallum going 1-1, 17-0 win over Lehman. Was Lehman just like hyped up over last week's game?
Could be a hangover from that victory of the first week of the season, but
oh man, golly, turn off your phone, Chris.
Way to go! I almost slipped. Had to do that earlier too, but no. It could have been just Lehman was hungover from that game before,
right.
Or Canyon just is not good, and that's who Lehman beat in week 1. Ralphus Canyon
could be true. Game that Paul went to last night: Hayes 22, Dripping Springs 21. Paul, talk about this one.
The Hayes County Classic was really started off quite funny on both sides of the ball. The first 2 possessions, flags just hindering the drives for both teams. The best player that stuck out to me, and I'll kind of get to this the game recap here in a second, but the best player that stuck out to me was not on offense or defense, but it was their junior kicker, Thomas Groven. That young man has a leg. He locked up a field goal. We always talk about kicking game being an insurance policy. After the last touchdown that Hayes scored, and I'll talk about that drive in a moment, he kicked the ball from the 35 into the back of the end zone to force a touchback for Dripping Springs, which made it a longer drive for Dripping Springs to come out of the gate. But to me, that was the biggest thing that helped them and pretty much locked up that game for Hayes. But just shout out to Thomas Grovan, junior kicker for Hayes Rebels. Getting into the game, it was pretty much a defensive game in the first half. Dripping Springs got things started going on. What is that?
Keep going.
So, but just picking up, really started off. Hayes started off with the touchdown. Dripping Springs answered back. The biggest pivotal part of this game was in the third quarter with 2:44 left, when Dripping Springs had a 11-point lead at this time, 21-10 at that time, 2:44 in the third. Hayes needed to stop because if Dripping Springs drove down, that team, Hayes is not built to come from behind. It was 3rd and 12. Defense locked it down, wrapped up Preston Alford in the backfield, and made Hayes punt. Made Dripping Springs punt. Hayes takes the ball. They drive down the field. They score a touchdown. They go for 2. They miss it. Into the fourth quarter, Hayes, the last 2 possessions of the game, Hayes gets the ball, and there was a penalty called on a punt for holding against Hayes, and who was the receiving team. I've never seen that in my life. I talked about the referees last week, and I'm going to talk about them again. Your calls are just way too questionable in these huge games. A lot of home cooking for Dripping Springs per the referees. Dang. So that was just something I just thought that stuck out. They took that ball. They drove down. 1st and 10, they got a holding call on the first play of their second to last drive. Puts them back 10. They can't convert. There's 4 minutes left in the game. They got a punt. They go down. They stop. Dripping Springs again. Pruitt just couldn't get the ball to his receivers, and that was the biggest thing on Dripping Springs side. Hayes drives down the ball. There's 1 minute left. They're on their 12, and they hand the ball to Xavier Green, and I really thought all Xavier Green had to do was get to the 5 or 2 and stop. Hayes has 2 timeouts. They could have just locked it up with 20 seconds left and score. Xavier Green busts through with 1 minute left, scores a 12-yard touchdown. They go for 2. They miss. It's 22-21. They got to get the ball back to Dripping Springs. And with that being said, 2 plays into Dripping Springs' last drive. They force a fumble as Preston Alford rolls out of the backfield. They recover the fumble. Hayes holds on, and Hayes takes the W 22-21 in Dripping Springs matchup.
Yeah.
His recap was so much better than yours, Chris.
It really was.
Jeez.
I mean,
You want to redo yours?
No, I don't really. No, I don't know. I mean, it's like I was having the newspaper read to me.
Yeah, I know. I feel like I'm there.
All right, Hayes with the big win, 22-21. Hayes 2-0 now. Kings of Hayes County, but Wimberley's out there too, right?
Yeah, they are. That's a Hayes. That's the what was that? The tri school county.
Yeah.
No, they really didn't make any sense.
Well, I mean, there's Lehman too, but shout out to Lobos.
Whoa!
Conley 28, Del Valle 47. Conley 0-2, Del Valle 2-0. Going to start district next week. I will say this about Conley: they're going to beat Bastrop next week, get their first win of the season.
Conley's one of those teams that's going to put it together and then surprise some people.
I think so too.
I talked to Demetrius Gardner Holmes last night, and
Did you?
Yeah, I just told
Where?
him through social media.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
I thought you were like hanging out somewhere.
No.
It's like, where do the Conley Cougars hang out after the game? Paul just goes there.
Hopefully they go home because that's where I went.
Isn't there a Whataburger?
Yeah, there's a Whataburger and an IHOP over there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's been big fights.
Yeah, man, they're looking forward to get their hands on Bastrop next week.
Yeah, so I think
Bastrop was one of Snoop's teams, though.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was talking ish over here because I know Snoop's like Bastrop, and I'm like Conley's gonna be
Bastrop baby over there.
Oh, here he comes.
Snoop's a little Bastrop baddie.
Here he comes. So Conley over Bastrop. What do you think, Snoop?
Maybe. Like Zach is Connolly is just a lot better than what we projected. So is McNeil. Like we're seeing, we have thoughts about teams, but they're playing the games, and we're seeing that maybe our thoughts weren't right.
Yeah.
Glenn I was wrong about. And Connolly and McNeil, I think I'm wrong about. Hutchinson has completely changed that entire offense. I know we're talking about Bastrop Connolly.
Yeah, that's
I got Bastrop, but. Yeah, Connolly is a lot better than we thought.
Well, let's go ahead and move on because that's the next game we're going to talk about here is McNeil and Glenn 48-29. I know, was it Winston Hutchinson?
Yes, the running back. That's the senior.
Man.
His young brother Jake is I think Luke. Making people at least think about not loading the box because he's more of a runner. But
yeah,
I haven't seen him play yet.
270 yards. Was it 4 touchdowns?
Yes,
for Winston Hutchinson last night.
It's a great night.
Game of the Player of the Week candidate probably on FanStan.
Sure, yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yes.
And what's crazy is you had to have at least 4 touchdowns last night to even be considered. That's how
breaking news.
That's how nuts of a offensive night it was. And 3 touchdowns is great, but you didn't have 5 or 6.
Man, if I had 1 touchdown, I'd be like, yes, I'm Player of the Week.
I almost,
I was just like I was hyped over 1 touchdown.
I almost
back in the day.
Yeah, I almost scooped and scored my senior year, but because I was so short and my pants were such a similar color to the dirt that we played on, they thought they rolled me down because they thought my knee touched. And it was just like,
they didn't have. That's when they didn't have color TV to look at the replays.
This is when the referees wore orange and white stripes.
Did you really think you were going to score though, Paul? How far were you?
I was about 35 yards out.
Okay.
And I had the angle to the goal line, and all I had was somebody next to me. But I had a guy. I had one of my DBs coming to my left flank. All he had to do was just keep him away, and I could have rumbled and tumbled down.
Chris could have drove down from Austin and tackled.
Probably could have.
Savage Saturday morning.
I'm just asking. I don't know because I don't know.
The only reason I say that is because my teammates that played, he scored it. He did that against back in the day against Del Valle when we played them, and I was like, I could do that too.
Yeah, I did it once. Shout out to Coach Kevin McKinley over at McNeil. Since we're talking about McNeil, D coordinator, he was the other defensive end for Westwood back in the day. I was on one side, he was on the other. He sacked the quarterback, knocked the ball loose. It just kind of popped right into my bread basket, and I just went off running. Longest 60 yards of my life. I thought I was gonna literally just. I
thought you ran a mile every weekend.
I did, but that was a jogging a mile. That's jogging, not running, not sprinting. I was a D lineman, Zach. We didn't have to like sprint. We would sprint 5 yards at a time.
So that's the comparison. When Chris in the mid-90s was a defensive lineman at that size, and I was like probably 100 pounds less than him now.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of ball games we're talking about.
So, yeah. Stony Point 52, Harker Heights 28. Stony Point, that's a pretty impressive win.
No one ever talks about Stony Point.
Let's talk about them.
No one ever talks about Stony Point, and there's so much like the middle of that district is going to be so like balanced. McNeil's better than we thought. Westwood is always good. RJ Martinez is the real deal at quarterback. Round Rock is good. Cedar Ridge might fall to the middle of that district. Like they're all so even that you can't write anybody off except for maybe like Leander, but that's it.
Yeah, and Stony Point's coming off of an impressive win, on the road at Killeen, 25-20. And then this Harker Heights team, they were beaten in week 1 by Round Rock, but they put up 30 points on the Dragons. So this Harker Heights team, they're not a bad team. So 52-28, that's a pretty impressive win for me. I don't know if it's a Paul Rodriguez, power index.
Not quite.
I don't know, whatever win you called it.
P-Rod's power index
win, but I think those are pretty good wins. And next week, they starting off, or next week they got one more non-district game at Stony Point that is against Leander. That's homecoming for them, and they start. Well, actually, that is the district game for them, and then they play Cedar Ridge. So I think in 2 weeks we will see, Zach, really how good Stony Point Tigers are. So, but I do agree with you. Nobody's talking about the Stony Point Tigers. They're starting off 2-0. They got a really good chance to start off 3-0 and with a win over Leander Lions next week. Georgetown 35, Waco High 7. Georgetown just doing Georgetown things. Eagle Fight never dies. Winning regular season games. That's just what they do, Paul.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that coming into this season is they're getting early wins like they're getting this year that they were not getting last year. That was kind of a little bit of a downer, but once district play kicked off, they were just taking care of business, and they're just getting started earlier this year, which I think is going to give them a lot of momentum heading into district.
Hutto 42, Liberty Hill 14. Hutto Hippos are going to win state this year. Paul, what do you think?
Yes.
Really? You agree with me?
Yes.
We were talking about Hutto before we came on air. Zach, do you know much about Hutto?
I just said they're not going to win state. The talent they had on their team last year is what they needed to win state. Just the type of schools that you're going to play down the line in 5A, your Highland Parks, your Alitos, stuff like that. Like those teams are just full of star power teams. The type of players that you'd see going to a 6A state championship game just on a 5A team. And Hutto is good this year. They're probably one of the better teams in the Central Texas area, but that 5A classification is just too stacked, I think.
I think it's also going to be dependent on what division they go, and that's all going to wash out in the district with the final after they get done with that.
Well, I feel like Hutto is better this year than they were last year.
I say Maynard beats them.
Simply because from my understanding, the team is more cohesive this year. It was a little bit split in the past few years. I'm not going to say why. But it just seems like they're playing more as a team. They definitely shouting out each other, after the game. They're really just, I think, with Lambert, Kimball, Harrison, Bueno,
right,
with Grayson Doggett back there. Those guys, they've got lots of talent, and the defense is good.
Yeah,
holding Liberty Hill to 14 points. That's pretty dang good.
That's what happens when you have D1 talent on the defensive line with Landry and Lordsville. Is those guys are the front that stops any kind of run game. And that's what Liberty Hill does. But that's where I think the biggest difference is this year is the defense is playing so much better than they were last year, and I think that's what's kind of giving them that cohesiveness to play well and be balanced.
All right, going into week 3, I'm calling the Hutto Hippos state championship. Coppers Cove 37, Maynard 33. Maynard's 0-2. Coach Mitchell, we need to start get some wins out there. Although Zach thinks that Maynard will beat Hutto later on. LBJ makes the trip all the way down to Los Fresnos. Gets the win 14-6. Quite a trip for the LBJ Jaguars. Shout out Ike Kohler. Just really getting everything that's happening out with LBJ. They got to go out to eat a couple times. They're staying at a nice hotel, hanging out at the pool. So at least they got the win as well. So, that money was not wasted. Burnett 41, Marble Falls 6. Okay, sorry, Paul. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say shout out to AISD for allowing that travel time and allowing them to go ahead and have that kind of experience to travel and go down and play. So shout out to them.
All right, Smithson Valley 43, Hendrickson 15. Zach Lucero, what's up with the Hawks?
So I have a plug that's in the coaching staff at Smithson Valley, and he said that Henderson just looks unorganized. They're athletic as ever, as they always are. A lot of penalties. They gave up a safety where the quarterback's trying to roll out of the end zone and just fell. That's just the kind of inauspicious kind of things. We're just unlucky. There's been, since I was at Henderson, I graduated 2013. People just are kind of done with Coach Killian. It's just the type of talent that you have there, just to lose in the first round, just to lose to Cedar Ridge in the playoffs. Like, it's just, you would think this has been a multiple state championship winning program, but it's not. But they have the players. If they can just turn things around and play more together, play more organized, then they will make noise.
Which I'm kind of surprised because I knew Coach Killian at the beginning of his coaching career. He actually coached at Westwood when I was there a long time ago, and he was a disciplined guy. He was a guy that
he is.
He was intense. You didn't.
But there's a difference between being a coach that instills discipline and then the disciplined coach that yells all the time. Because that's what it is. Like, just because he yells all the time doesn't mean the players are going to buy in.
Right, and it's also the biggest thing too. If that locker room gets lost by the coaching staff, it's going to be really hard for them to perform on Friday nights and showcase their abilities because they may just not be invested. Yeah,
or this is just a non-district game. They came off of that win off of Texarkana last week.
And then with Weiss opening up too.
Yeah.
Weiss opening up, taking some of the kids that would have gone to Hendrickson.
That's true.
So
I'm going to chalk it up to being unfocused and possibly Smithson Valley being really good.
They always are.
Smithson Valley's got they always have a good program.
And it could have been a bounce back because last year Hendrickson was talking about they don't want this smoke and they got rained out, and Smithson Valley probably left this on their calendar to say, hey, remember all this stuff, this bulletin board material, and let's go ahead and take care of business at home.
Right.
And that's what we talk about Hendrickson having all the athletes in the world but being undisciplined or unorganized. That's the complete opposite for Smithson Valley. That program is so well coached. They maybe send one guy to play D2 football a year. A guy goes to FBS like every blue moon, but they play so together. They're so well coached. They're so they play so sound that it's just the complete opposite. And really it's a bad matchup for Hendrickson, honestly.
Yeah. So Hendrickson, big loss. I fully expect them to bounce back. All right, Round Rock putting up another 42 spot, but of course giving up 30 points still. I said last night on our chat on Messenger that they were going to win 13-6A. I'm kind of rethinking that.
Oh, why is that, Chris?
But I'm not going to. I'm going to say the Round Rock Dragons win 13-6A. Tell me why I'm wrong, Paul.
I don't think you're wrong.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
Lie.
Let me tell you why.
Don't lie.
I think that's the most well-balanced D1 laden program in Central Texas. I think they're
well-balanced, but they give up points like that every game.
Are you winning? And by well-balanced, I mean they have D1 players at every level. That's what I mean by well-balanced. Do I think they're going to be holding people like to 0 points like Vandergrift? No, I don't. But that's all going back to the philosophy of coaching, and they know they have skilled players, and they're going to utilize them.
I say no one wins that district outright.
You think it's going to be a shared?
Yeah.
Shared by whom?
Any of those
what?
three, Vandy, Cedar Ridge,
and Round Rock. Okay.
I think if it's shared between Vandergrift and Round Rock. I don't think Cedar Ridge gets a share.
I think if it's shared,
it wouldn't surprise me if Cedar Ridge isn't even in the talk, but it's someone like Westwood or Stony Point or something like that.
That's what I was saying. I was about to say once again, we're not talking about Stony Point. We're talking 13-6A.
Stony Point, yes, I can see that.
All right, so I'm going to stick with my bold predictions from week 2. Round Rock wins 13-6A, and Hutto wins the state championship. Which one is more bold in y'all's opinion? The state championship by Hutto or the Round Rock 13-6A?
There's how many district champions every year, and then how many state champions?
Yeah, but year. 13-6A is pretty stacked.
Yeah, so is the state of Texas.
Yeah, I guess. But Hutto's really good. Eastview 41, New Braunfels Canyon 35. Eastview now 2-0. Shout out to the Patriots. They're getting the wins just like Georgetown. What's happening out in Georgetown? Are they growing football players out there, Paul?
I think that Georgetown is finally just playing up to their potential. We thought last year Eastview was going to do well, came out real sluggish, but shout out to Georgetown and Eastview. They're taking care of business in 2019.
And Snoop Daniel comes back with some Taco Cabana. I hope you brought Zach something. He's still hungry.
Hey.
Just kidding. Just playing. All right, and so that's going to wrap up
It's gonna wrap up the wrap up.
Our wrap up. Film, weights, and mild edition. College football today. What are we talking about? Clemson A&M first, or Zach? Do you have something a hot take about the college football?
Okay, first of all, I want to apologize for my Hunter Johnson takes. Dude didn't even start. Dude didn't even start for Northwestern.
One more thing too. I find it ironic that you're wearing the shirt of the team that Chris won with. I just find that ironic. I know I lost that bet.
Both of y'all
so
lost.
did you. But it's funny the shirt you're wearing. It's an Under Armour Auburn long sleeve T-shirt when it's 95 degrees outside in Central Texas.
All right, I don't want to get sunburned. Okay, jeez.
It was a bad beat for y'all, but y'all still owe me pluckers.
It almost wasn't a bad beat. You were talking in the group that it wasn't a bad beat. That you were like,
No,
that's your take.
no.
That's what Chris sounded like.
Was it? Is that how you read me?
That's not how I interpreted the message.
But going back to my Hunter Johnson take,
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence didn't play that well. But I mean, you don't really have to when Travis Etienne is just going crazy like that.
Agreed.
true.
But I mean, I'm half and half. Hunter Johnson way off. Trevor Lawrence didn't play that well. So
How does Trevor Lawrence play today against the Aggies?
Good
he gets outplayed by Kellen Mond.
Think so?
Whoa.
Okay.
Disagree.
If we start talking Skip Bayless, QBR, like and stuff like that, like Kellen Mond plays a better game. Maybe they don't win, but Kellen Mond plays a better game.
No, I don't agree with that.
I'm not even saying anything because I'm just waiting for Paul to talk.
Trevor Lawrence is going to be the reason that Clemson wins this game. ETN is going to get his touches and may get one touchdown, but the key to stopping Clemson is going to be with stopping ETN because of what he did in week 1.
Yeah, because Trevor Lawrence didn't play a good game. So you'd rather have that than him running all over you.
That's because in week 1 they keyed on Trevor Lawrence and they found out, whoa, ETN can really play the game too. So what are we going to do? We're going to pick our poison. We're going to rely on our secondary, play man, and they're going to load the box and stop ETN. And then Trevor Lawrence has got to make those passes in those small windows. Can he do it? I say yes. And you're thinking, and I understand Jimbo Fisher is a quarterback whisperer. I got it. I think Kellen Mond, and we talked about this on Wednesday, I think Kellen Mond is the best quarterback in the SEC. But is the SEC, like Chris said, is the SEC known for quarterbacks?
No.
Exactly.
Zach, a rebuttal, or are we moving on?
Now we're moving on.
All right. Other big game today. Of course, here in town in Austin, Texas, LSU Tigers roll in, taking on the Texas Longhorns. I think they're still a 6.5 point favorite. Game day's in town. It's a big deal. You know, Snoop was down on 6th Street last night. A bunch of Louisiana folk are here.
Texas rocking the DBU shirts.
Texas rocking the DBU shirts. I mean,
Which, okay, it's kind of an absurd argument.
It is right?
Especially with LSU.
Yeah.
It's not Texas. It's not Texas. Texas, I mean, if you're in Texas.
It's not Texas?
No. Are you?
Why?
Then who is it?
You tell me why. You tell me why it is Texas.
Why does this guy burden proof got to be on Chris? You said no.
I know, right?
Chris over here trying to challenge me. It's my turn.
It's like we're on Twitter. You tell me.
Well, no, it can't. Like when you're in Texas, it feels like it's Texas because the guys that Texas has produced, like so well. You know Earl Thomas so well. You know Kenny Vaccaro. You know
Michael Griffin.
You know Michael Griffin. You know like all those guys. But it's got to be LSU. Like the amount of people that LSU turns out, like it's so much bigger than Texas.
So quality over quantity or quantity over quality.
So we listed 3 UT DBs. Name me 3 LSU DBs besides. No, I'll let you even have those 2.
Besides,
I'll let you have those 2. Go ahead.
What's his name? Eric Reed. He's a safety. Tyrann Mathieu, Pat Pete.
Okay.
Plus all the what's his name that plays for the Browns? Greedy.
Okay.
It's every year these guys have someone. They have a guy now that's projected top 15, a corner.
Huff, Quentin Vasher. I mean, I can keep going, but I mean, I'm just saying, DBU has been since the '90s, not since 2000.
Vaccaro. Well, he's
Ivy
not
Safety.
DBU.
Why not?
Was he
a safety.
was he a safety?
Yeah.
That's right. Okay.
The guys that line up on the backside of the defense, they call those defensive backs.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know
Safeties,
about I
corners.
didn't know about those guys. I played in the trenches. I called them the skinny guys. Longhorns versus LSU. Oh, we didn't even make a prediction about the Aggie game.
Okay, we can
Real quick.
We'll rewind.
No, that's fine. Yeah, Aggie Clemson.
Can we do our throwback thing?
Which one is it? Hold on. No, that's not it.
That's for Christmas. Great
Is
timing.
that it? There it is.
I don't have headphones on, so I don't
There
know
it
what y'all
is.
talking
Okay. Anyways, you need to get some headphones, bro.
You had a dream sequence right there.
A&M versus Clemson. Who wins?
about. What's the spread? Do we have the spread?
17 and a half.
17 and a half? Holy wow.
I'd take a... Nah, Clemson's going to cover.
Whoa. Clemson's going to cover?
Yeah, ETN going crazy.
Okay.
All right. Paul?
I'm sticking with my prediction from Wednesday, 38-21.
All right. Yeah, me too. Picking them up. What was mine? 31-21.
Yes, that's right.
31-21 Clemson. So that means that we're both saying they're not covering though. 38-21
Yeah, but
and 31-21 isn't covering.
But I'm at 17.
And you're saying covering.
I'm at
I'm saying
17.
covering, yeah.
Okay, so,
So you're saying they're going to score.
He's saying
you're
there's-
saying 42-21? What are you saying?
he's saying something
I'm not
else to
saying
that.
numbers.
Okay.
But he's saying they're covering. We're saying not covering.
Let me rewind and get that exact score that Chris Sanchez said on Wednesday. I have it here as soon as I can find it.
And I don't remember, dude. I'm getting so old,
Do
Zach.
you want to remember? Was it bad?
Yeah, it's like grandpa over here, dude.
Yeah.
Like I was kind of upset that I didn't go to the bank this morning. Like
You
I
didn't
usually
go
go.
to the
I
bank?
usually go to the bank on Saturday mornings.
Isn't the bank closed on the weekends?
No, bro, they're open. They open 9 to 1.
Major banks are open on
For-
Saturday morning.
Do you still write physical checks?
Dude, I
to
write
pay for stuff?
checks, bro. Yeah,
Like in your personal life? You
yeah.
write checks?
I go to HEB and write checks out to cash to get cash.
So Chris's pick from Wednesday was Clemson 31, A&M 21, and I was 38-21. So
Okay.
Zach,
All right.
what are you saying? You saying they're covering?
Zach's
I'm saying
covering.
they cover. I don't
They're
wanna say-
covering
I don't wanna say
17 and a
point.
half.
I know. Y'all have me up early like I'm going to school. I can't do math right now.
Well, you sure had those SAT words with inauspicious and plethora. I'm sorry, lackluster. So your mind's right. Maybe you just can't add.
Yeah, I just can't.
Longhorn game, 6.5 point favorites for LSU. Which one is me?
Hey, Snoop's gonna be there.
It's the same thing.
Oh yeah, Snoop's going to the
Snoop's
game.
going to the game.
Snoop's going
We'll
to the game.
have a Recon insider at the game.
I had 31-24 LSU, so that's covering. I got LSU to cover. Paul, what'd you have?
And I'm taking Texas to win outright, 24-21.
Did you put money on that? Because they were like a plus 2 to 1 dog.
I put money on A&M and Clemson.
Okay,
I'll take the under.
I don't know what that is.
So
I don't
he's
know, whatever it is, I'll take it.
we haven't looked at the over under yet.
But I'll take it.
Zach,
But
why do you
we
always-
have a Recon eye reporter going to be live at the Texas LSU game. I can't wait for next week to hear all of his insight, to hear his shout outs. Snoop Daniel, his first time ever
Man, we don't do
Recon
any of
eye
that.
reporting.
We're called con reporters.
Con reporters.
Yeah,
I'm so
like
excited.
Convicts.
Wow.
Snoop Daniel, he's really been coming up through the ranks when it comes to the Recon podcast. I'm really excited to get his feet wet.
I got a quick question for Zach Lucera. We've baited you, we've asked you, we've requested from you to give predictions, and you're still holding out. We gave you a pass on the Vandergrift giving scores out. What's with the?
Is that a millennial thing?
Are you just indecisive by nature?
Yeah, I'm real indecisive, and I like to if I'm wrong, I can be like, I never said that.
So you just don't like to be. You're just narcissistic, is what it is. You just don't like to be wrong.
Nah, but I'm
Yes,
I'm
the
usually
answer
just
is
right.
yes.
Nobody likes to be wrong.
But if you
Thanks,
can own
Chris.
it, that's a sign of maturity.
That's true. Yeah. Cowboys game tomorrow. Do they win?
They play the Giants. Yeah.
Does Zeke play?
Does AB ever
Zeke
play
plays.
for the Raiders?
Antonio Brown. Does he ever play for the Raiders? I say no. Zach,
If he doesn't play for the Raiders, does he play for somebody else this year, or is he done for the year?
do you want that guy on your team?
If y'all were checking out Recon's stories on Instagram, you would see that Bill Belichick's coming out to Stone Cold's music and coming with the 7th pick for AB. But in my opinion, that's just a passing. But the Raiders, if Mike Mayock is smart, cut bait. You haven't paid. The man missed his requirement to show up for off-season practices.
So he lost all his guarantees.
Hold on, listen. Yes, he lost $500,000 because he had $500 this year, $500 next year. They haven't paid him a dime. Cut bait. If he plays Monday, you got to pay his contract in full, $30 million.
Yeah, let it go.
He said he came out and said there's no way he's playing this year. He came out and posted on Instagram, Raiders release me.
Drew Rosenhaus told AB, shut your mouth until Monday so we can get paid, because Drew Rosenhaus wants his 3% of that $30 million.
Mm-hmm. But AB, he's AB.
AB's going to shut his mouth until Monday, and then he's going to go back to acting the way he's acting.
No, but did you not see this morning? He put on Instagram that he wants to be released.
Great.
This morning
he puts
on Twitter,
on Instagram. Like
Instagram.
I just said.
Let me look real quick.
Yeah, on Instagram. So yesterday,
yesterday
he goes to a team meeting. He gets the team captains to get behind him, and supposedly he has this emotional apology. I think the man maybe he just has some some mental issues that he needs to deal with. Not to be, disparaging about it at all, but maybe the dude just, needs to take some time off and just chill out for a little while. Raiders, you don't need that in your locker room, really. Just release him.
You need him on the field to be relevant.
That's true, but
Tyrell Williams going to be your number one receiver?
I don't know. I got to go pick him up.
Phillip Rivers didn't even like him.
That's true. If the Raiders are smart, you release him. You make a deal to get somebody in-house that could be. I would try to make a move for Fitzgerald for 1 year and see if that can get you at least ticket sales, and then possibly pick somebody up in the draft. But you don't want the mess that AB has. And I was listening to Ryan Clark yesterday on ESPN, and Ryan Clark was a teammate of AB at Pittsburgh, and the word on the street is that this guy has behaved this way since his career began, and it was just hidden away from the public. And if that's the way things are going to be, and teams are going to hide this kind of mess, then shame on them for putting up with it. But he got paid, and he's going to get paid if he stays.
My take, Mike Mayock, shut up. Quit trying to flex on everybody because you're a new GM. Mm-hmm. Quit trying to flex at the detriment of your team. Your job is to be there and win games.
What do you mean by how is he flexing?
By trying to suspend AB and come out and say you're either with us or you're not.
And fine him and stuff.
Yeah. You and Gruden wanted this guy on your team.
Mm-hmm.
You knew what it came with. They didn't give him away for so little because he's of this valuable member of their organization. You knew what you were getting into, and now that he's making you look bad, you're trying to flex all over him. If that's hurting your team, you need to suck it up. You're not this tenured NFL GM that's well respected. Like, you're not a well respected GM, so don't expect to be well respected. But AB, quit calling people crackers. No one really says that anymore.
Yeah, no, right.
No, that's not a term.
So this is where I think the situation is going to come to light. If Mike Mayock pulls the trigger and cuts AB, he will be a well respected GM. Right now, he hasn't earned that right, but I do understand that in order for systems to be in place and for organizations to function properly, you have to have documentations of any kind of misconduct that goes on. Where I work, we have documentation if you're not doing things properly. I'm sure that happens where y'all work, because I know where y'all work. And all they're doing is creating documentation behind AB's behavior so that when they do need to cut him, they can say, per the CBA, we've documented, we've informed you, and we've notified you of your errors. You are now released and you receive no funds, because at the end of the day, this is a money play. This is not a behavior play.
I'm okay with Mike Mayock being a well-respected, unemployed GM, because that's what's going to happen when they go 0 whatever and continue to put a poor product on the field. Their fans aren't going to follow them to Las Vegas. They already have a hard time having fans. You're already going to have a hard time having fans in Las Vegas because not a lot of people live there. So it's just going to be whoever's in town for that weekend, and no one's going to want to come to town and watch Derek Carr throw to Hunter Renfrow. So
If they're winning, it doesn't matter.
how are they going to win?
It's an if they win, it doesn't matter.
They're going to win as many games with Larry Fitzgerald as they are with AB.
So if AB plays, hypothetically, if AB plays and they still lose, is Mike Mayock still unemployed?
Yes, because he's not winning.
All right. Time will tell.
Antonio Brown is on your fantasy football team. Do you put him in the lineup because he is playing on Monday night?
Good question.
I mean, if his little thingy is green, you start him, but you watch it until the last minute and then switch him out and put in Larry Fitzgerald, Paul's favorite.
His little thingy's green.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
If that thing is green,
Come
put him
clean.
in. Yeah.
Come clean.
All right. So do you put him? But he's playing Monday night. That's what I'm saying. Do you reserve a spot in your lineup if you're a fantasy football player? Do you reserve a spot in your lineup for Antonio Brown to play on Monday night?
Yeah, but you gotta do those fingers push-ups and be ready for him be ready for it to say out.
But
real quick.
that's what Chris is talking about. Your slot has to be reserved because you'll have all your players playing on Sunday.
Most everybody's playing
Most
Sunday.
everybody's
You got
playing
two. You got 2 games. Let's say you got 2 games on Monday night, so not everybody's playing.
And if your lineup isn't structured to have another player on the Raiders, or who are they playing Monday? Denver.
Monday is Denver and Oakland, and then Houston and New Orleans. So there's going to be plenty of options.
So unless you have options, unless you're going to go get
Kenny Stills
from Houston
off the waiver wire.
I mean, good luck because your players are done Sunday.
But I mean, I'd rather risk it with AB than start Ted Ginn Jr.
I mean, you could possibly get 0 for both. You're right.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Recon Podcast, episode 6.
6.
All right. We'll see y'all on Wednesday.